How can the Inuit light a fire inside an igloo without the ice walls melting? Could the Inuit explanation actually be true? And were the footprints the American researcher saw on the ice that night real? In the early 20th century, a young researcher traveled to the far north of Canada to live among the Inuit for several months. He wanted to understand something that seemed simple on the surface, but was actually very strange. How could these people light a fire inside houses made entirely of ice? Without the ice melting, on one bitterly cold night, the researcher sat inside an igloo with one of the Inuit elders. Outside, the storm was howling, and the temperature had dropped to more than 40 degrees below zero. At first, he thought the stories were exaggerated, but on the very first night he spent there, he saw it with his own eyes. In the middle of the igloo, a small fire was burning quietly. A gentle warmth and a soft yellow light danced across the white walls. The researcher raised his head toward the ceiling. Ice, directly above him. If someone lit a fire inside a house made of snow, the roof should melt immediately, but the ceiling remained solid, as if the fire had no effect on it at all. The elder noticed the confusion in his eyes. He smiled calmly, and then said something strange. The fire here does not melt the ice, because the ice does not allow it. The researcher laughed. He thought it was just a poetic way of speaking, but the elder did not laugh. He moved a little closer to the ice wall and placed his palm against it. Then he said in a quiet voice, "We do not build these houses alone." The researcher asked him, "What do you mean?" The elder answered slowly, "There are those who live inside the ice, older than all of us." Silence filled the igloo. The researcher said nothing. He assumed it was just an old legend, but he felt something strange, as if the air itself had grown heavier. Hours passed, and eventually everyone fell asleep. But in the middle of the night, the researcher suddenly woke up. There was a sound, a very faint sound, as if someone was dragging something across the icy roof. He opened his eyes. The igloo was dark except for the weak glow of the fire. He listened again. The sound returned. Slow footsteps above the roof. He froze in place. How could anyone be walking on the roof? The storm outside was violent, and no sane person would go out in such deadly cold. Slowly, he stood up and opened the low ice entrance. He stepped outside. The wind was raging. Snow was blowing in every direction. He looked around. No one, but one thing made him stop breathing for a moment. Footprints around the igloo. But they were not human footprints. They were longer, deeper. As if something very heavy had been walking across the snow, he followed them with his eyes. But suddenly they stopped, as if whatever made them had vanished into thin air. A chill ran through his body, not from the cold. He quickly went back inside the igloo. The elder was awake, staring at the fire. As if he had been waiting for him, the researcher said nervously, "There are footprints around the igloo." The elder slowly lifted his eyes toward him. Then he said something that sent a shiver down the researcher's spine. "When the fire is burning, they come to watch it," the researcher asked. "Who?" the elder answered very calmly. "The guardians of the ice." Then he added, "They do not like fire, but they allow us to use it." The rest of the night passed very slowly. The wind howled outside the igloo, and sometimes the researcher heard the same sound above the roof. Slow footsteps circling the igloo. He did not sleep after that. In the morning, he packed his belongings quickly, thanked the elder, and left the village immediately. Later, in his notes, he wrote only one sentence about that night. "I don't know why the ice did not melt, but I am certain the fire was not the only thing living inside that house." All right, that is the Inuit explanation. But what does science say about this? How can the ice not melt, even with a fire inside? The fire is used very carefully, often with fuel like seal blubber or small oil lamps, providing just enough warmth without damaging the walls. Even if the inner wall absorbs some heat and melts slightly, it refreezes due to the cold air present in the walls, which slowly seeps to the inner layer and freezes it again after it melts from the fire. The combination of snow, the cold external air, and the internal warmth from the fire all work together to keep the igloo warm without causing the snow walls to collapse. Over time, This layer gradually turns into a solid layer of ice. And that is the scientific explanation. What do you think? Share your thoughts. Thank you, and see you next time.